Good afternoon, everyone. Myself, Subhu Kumar, as a resource person of today's in-house training program. Today, I am going to discuss how the scientific temperament nurse among these students. I'm very thankful to respected principal sir, school management for giving me this golden opportunity. Now it's my humble request from teachers to switch off their mic and camera for a smooth running of program. If you are disconnected from the meeting, please click on the same link to rejoin. You will be able to fill your attendance if you are joined for more than 45 minutes. Okay, today I'm going to discuss about developing scientific temperament. What is science? The word science comes from the Latin word scientia, which means to know. The Sanskrit word vigyan convey this similar meaning in more detail. Science is the systematic attempt to understand the law of nature in as much detail as possible. We see many phenomena in our lives, for example, the regular repetition of day and night, changing seasons, rainbow formation, volcanic eruptions, earthquake, and lightning. Human's mind have always been curious about these phenomena from time immemorial and the deeper thinking led them to have scientific temperament on scientific method. Any system of knowledge that is concerned with the physical world and its phenomena and that entails unbiased observation and systematic experimentation. Science is the knowledge gained from using observation and experiments to describe and explain the world around us. Scientific attitude and scientific temper, these terms are used interchangeably in the field of science and encompass similar traits and features that are required to be developed among learners through science teaching. Attitudes can be defined as mental predispositions toward people, objects, subjects, events, and so on. Scientific attitudes is indicated by certain tendencies or mental processes in a person which include critical and logical thinking, curiosity, creativity, and inventiveness, respect for evidence, mindedness, persistence, truthfulness, and honesty in reporting observations. Skepticism, universalism, and willingness to suspend judgment unless having sufficient evidence. Some key points: belief, intellectual honesty, curiosity, humility, open-mindedness, objectivity, responsibility, risk-taking, inventiveness. Scientific temper. What is scientific temper? Scientific temper is a way of life, an individual and social process of thinking and acting, which uses a scientific method. This may include questioning, observing physical reality, testing, hypothesizing, analyzing, and communicating. Scientific temper describes an attitude which involves the application of logic, discussion, argument, and analysis are vital parts of scientific temper. Elements of fairness, equality, and democracy are built into it. Jawaharlal Nehru was the first to use the phrase in 1946. Jawaharlal Nehru strongly believed in two wonderful concepts: freedom of speech and a concept he had coined, a nation with a scientific temper. The term, a scientific temper, is a wonderfully succinct way to describe a broad concept. By speaking of a nation with a scientific temper, we wanted to speak of the people of a nation who would be able to think independently, understand and practice the scientific method in their daily lives, analyze and not take a statement at their face value, and avoid simplistic reasoning. Of course, it has been easier said that done to create that atmosphere in a nation where superstition, religion, humor, myth, and innumerable beliefs count. What is scientific temper? Scientific temper is a state of mind which does not accept anything for the truth. A way of life, living, think logically and rationally, to have a rational attitude. Our first, our first Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru, used the term in 1946. A logical person look at everything with skepticism. He should not be easily swayed by popular acclaim. Why do you think why eclipse occur? Scientific temper foster values hidden in scientific method. Now let me familiarize you with method of science. The knowledge we call science is required for scientific method involving requiring observations and their logical extensions. It is testable by experiment and or has logical convincing explanation. What is scientific temper? The attitude of questioning and reasoning. It's the approach of believing only facts supported by relevant evidences, where these evidences are derived from observation, logical interpretation, and conclusion made from experiment or experience which is repeatable under similar conditions. Believing things to the extent of evidence availability, scientific temper is a true pathfinder and guide for our life. It's not only complex scientific methodology, but it's built on solid base of humility, freedom, courage, fearlessness, and humanity. It's not, sorry, it's a thought process which believes universe runs on its own by natural laws. Attributes of scientific temper. What are attributes of scientific temper? That is critical thinking, logical thinking, respect for evidence, objectivity, open-mindedness, honesty in reporting, skepticism, perseverance, etc. Okay, I'm going to define critical thinking. What is critical thinking? It is the ability to analyze our experiences and review our actions through reflecting on them. It requires an abstract thinking to reflect on our actions. We use critical thinking to evaluate whether something is adequate, correct, useful, or desirable. You can nurture critical thinking among your learners by encouraging them to review their work for further improvement. You should discuss with them about the failures or mistakes in a previous work. Also discuss the alternate ways of approaching a given problem if one doesn't seem working. It is better if you ask open-minded questions to encourage your learners to analyze information and critically think on the think on the various aspects of a given problem or experience. Second, logical thinking. Logical thinking. It requires thinking with logical reasoning. Logical thinking is the essence of having scientific temper as it makes you focus on your observation, organize them carefully, to reasoning before arriving at any conclusion. You should give enough opportunities to your learners to reason on their observations. Learners start looking for patterns in terms of cause and effects before concluding ones. They start developing logical thinking. Respect for evidence. Any judgment or conclusion in science should be based on suitable evidences. In case there are not enough evidence to support a conclusion, it can't be treated as very scientific idea. Similarly, if there are evidences contradicting some idea, then there should be willingness to change the idea itself in the light of convincing evidences. This should help learners to collect evidences for verifying and testing their ideas about any object or event, and adequately help them learn how to confront ideas with evidences. Next, objectivity. Objectivity. This is referred to the ability of looking at things without preconceived notions, prejudices, or subjective biases. Objectivity will also help in developing respect for evidences, since an objective person will only rely on unbiased evidences. If somebody sets for a scientific inquiry with some preconceived notions in mind, then there are obvious chances to obtain biased results. It is better if you help your learners learn to accept any idea only after testing and verifying it against sufficient number of evidences. Mindedness. An open-minded person listens to others and is willing to change his mind if warranted. Scientific temper demands that the person should be open-minded and flexible in his approach. The person is required to evaluate all observations, inferences, and explanations carefully, and then accept the ones which are consistent with the evidences and offers best possible explanation of the phenomenon. Open-minded person will accept a new theoretical framework, model, or paradigm over the other. When he identifies the inconsistencies in the existing theories of the ways of approaching and explaining a phenomenon, you can help your learners become open-minded by letting them share their viewpoints with each other and evaluate them collectively. This would be help to show respect for best explanations and review their own conclusion if found inconsistent with the upcoming observation, evidences. Okay. Honesty in reporting observations. Sometimes you may find learners taking their observations and manipulating their results while performing a given experiment. Have you thought about the reason which they do so? Answer is simple, that we never emphasize on doing science experiments without fear of verifying or proving something right. Why should the learners feel pressure of coming out with correct results while performing science experiments? Think of its impact on humanity. If scientists also start doing same in their investigations, can we rely afford its outcomes? The answer is no, obviously. Then it is our duty as a science teacher to imbibe the habit of carrying out a science experiment honestly and report to the actual result. Skepticism. What is skepticism? Skepticism. It is the ability to question accepted beliefs, ideas, or facts prevalent in society on the basis of scientific reasoning or investigations. You should have help your learners to develop this attitude of questioning widely accepted superstitions and myths in our society in the name of religion, culture, magic, and so on. It is better if you give a lot of space in your science classes about discussing such non-scientific ideas and beliefs to help learners develop into logical and rational thinker. Perseverance. 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 It is the ability to carry out something with sustained and persistent efforts. History makes it evident that lots of scientific inventions were the results of sustained efforts of scientists, and for some, it took their lifetime even. You must help your learners to accept their failures, learn from them, and motivate for further trials. Importance of scientific temper. Scientific temper will lead to develop attitude of questioning and raising in every citizen. Such attitude will boost countries' techno-social development. Scientific temper made human understand there is reason behind every happening. This reason can be understood by human. The efficiency of approach and availability of right resources will decide time, competence, completeness, and correctness of explanation. This is the surest way to obtain the correct explanation for unknown happenings. What can be done to promote and inculcate scientific temper? And education, science-based education, education-based science-based education. Every individual needs to understand and try to develop this attitude as a constitutional duty. Think about the scientific temper, speak and implement the time. On mass scale, following is normally done. Science exhibition, essay and declaration on science, invention, scientist, etc. And the poster competitions. Additionally, this needs to be done. Arranging informative talks, science lectures, that is in audio and visual forms, forming science clubs, stabilizing more number of science centers, arranging visits to nearby science centers and industries, ensuring availability of science books, science-made essay, experimental sciences, science shows and demonstrations, providing activity list, astronomy workshop, and sky observation programs, along with question answer sessions. Organizing programs which will bring people closer to nature. Visit to nature park, birds, animal sanctuaries, snake parks, etc. Snake shows, birds, butterflies, watching visits. This will not only help to inculcate scientific temperament, but will also contribute to preparation for all myths and superstition in general public mind and will lead to conservation of nature, Mother Earth. What is scientific attitude? Scientific attitude is a way of thinking that can be obtained through science education. The acquisition of scientific attitude is one of the most important outcomes of science. It is an attitude that the scientist should possess, set of attitude that the students study science should possess. Scientific attitudes, passion points of scientific attitude, curiosity and fascination, determination, open-mindedness, acceptance of results, objectivity, humility, and healthy skepticism, patience, reflection, empathy for human condition, intellectual honesty, perseverance, self-confidence, scientific intuition, aptitude for serendipity, ethics. Okay, I'm going to define scientific attitude. What is scientific attitude? We aspire for the development of scientific attitude in our students, which is the ultimate aim of science teaching. We also agree that if we teach science properly, that is for activities performed under the supervision of teachers or allow children to perform unsupervised activities on their own, then surely they will adopt scientific process for learning their environment. Through guided and self-learning, they will acquire the behavior and attitude which we call as scientific attitude. Scientific attitudes and values that science teaching wants to integrate. First is critical problem solving, innovation of beneficial products, environmental care, conservation of resources, enhancement of integrity and wellness, informed decision making, decision of relevant issues that involve science, technology, and environment. Characteristics of scientific attitude. Person with scientific attitude will have some characteristics, that is open-mindedness, objectivity, freedom from belief in superstitions, up to deadness, suspended judgment, critical in observation and thought, methodological way of solving a problem on hand, belief in cause-effect relationship, respect for others' opinions, accuracy and truthfulness in reporting observations. On acquiring scientific attitudes, pupils will demonstrate the following behavior. They will respect the teacher. They will have a keen desire to know hows and whys of any event or phenomenon. They will not ignore any detail, if, even if it is one, even if it is of no direct relevance of the work in hand. They will report, and interpret their observation honestly. They will not accept or reject anything without valid reasons. They will suspend judgment till it is repeatedly confirmed. They are unbiased in their approach to problems. They are willing to consider new ideas and discoveries. They will admit their mistakes unhesitatingly. They will develop independent thinking. They will show a spirit of teamwork, self-help, and self-reliance, reliance, self-reliance. They are prepared to face hazards on their investigations. As we know, importance of scientific temper is already endorsed. Central Government Act Article 51A in the Constitution of 1949, Fundamental Duties, develop the scientific temper, humanism, a spirit of inquiry of reform. Every Indian must develop scientific temper. Science and spiritualism seek the same divine blessing for doing good for the people. Science tries to provide solutions for a better material life, while spiritualism looks at answer on how to lead a righteous life, said by APJ Abdul Kalam, former President of India. How to develop the scientific temper. How to develop the scientific temper. Discovery approach to teaching and is eminently suited to teaching science, imparting knowledge of science for experimentations and demonstration by involving students directly in activities, similar to how scientists operate to explore new ideas, encourage himself to ask questions. Let TV time be more for scientific programs than for entertainment. Playing chess can also improve scientific temper. Why is scientific temper important? Help to understand the whys and hows of life. It preserves the traditional beliefs and without hammering man's curiosity about nature, the wonders of creation and origin of universe, necessary for an individual to lead a smooth and comfortable life in the society. In order to enhance scientific temper among students, a specific and clear goal-oriented curriculum is essential. The 6 pillars of scientific temper. First is scientific literacy, second, scientific attitude, and third, scientific thinking, fourth one, scientific method, fifth, scientific perception, and scientific habit. Scientific literacy. It is a measure of feeling and of value. Incorporates scientific ideas and concepts within and across various scientific disciplines as well as scientific practices. Involves the ability to solve daily problems through the method of science and consequent development of the scientific outlook. Scientific attitude. The term attitude encompasses a wide range of affective behaviors, composite of a number of mental habits or tendencies to react consistently in a certain ways to a novel or problematic situation. It is the most important outcomes of science teaching. Scientific thinking. Scientific thinking. Different from the learning of scientific facts in such a way instead of learning what other people have discovered. Scientific thinking leads children to make their own discoveries, involves characters such as curiosity, reasoning, open mindedness, ability to manage the new situations, interest in future, scientific method, an organized plan used for gathering, organizing, and communicating information, method or procedure adopted by scientists in their investigation of natural phenomena. Scientific method uses reasoning to produce useful and reliable models. Involves following six steps. First, state the problem. Second, gather information or form a hypothesis. Or just the hypothesis. Fifth, analyze data. The last, not least, draw conclusions. Scientific perception. Scientific perception. Always try to reach the cause or the primary sources of the event. Important dimension of scientific perception is observing any event, situation, cause, problem, rule and principles as a scientific or critical outlook. Critical thinking is that mode of thinking about any subject, content, and problem. Scientific habit. Scientific habit. Scientific habit called as the polarity of scientific temper. Scientific habits of mind are curiosity and openness to new ideas. Thinking based on scientific habit is free from conservation, superstition, and narrow, rigid, callous outlook. The important areas of scientific habits of mind are aversion to superstitious belief, curiosity, openness to new ideas, reasoning ability, rationality, mistrust of arguments from authority. Science and values. What is science and values? Science can only ascertain what is, but not what should be. And outside of its domain value, judgments of all kinds remain necessary, said by Albert Einstein. Religion and philosophy necessary to provide ethical framework for science and its application. Science and reason are different. The goal of science is understanding lawful reasons among natural phenomena. Religion is a way of life within a large framework of meaning. Science and religion complementary. Science and religion are two windows that people look through, trying to understand the big universe outside, trying to understand why we are here, said by Freeman Dyson. So our aim is to inculcate ideas early in a child's life. So that is, it would enable the child to understand the scientific method better, better enable the child to question simplistic statements or theories. Scientific theories from popular and would help the child grow up into someone more rational and someone less likely to be sought purely by emotions or passions. So coming back to Nehru's scientific temper, I think these are the type of initiatives that we need, starting with kids at a very young age. There certainly are small efforts here and there by wonderful NGOs or other organizations, but most of the efforts are few and far between with education in India itself. Most of the effort appears to be for better colleges or research institutes or more IITs. But the biggest hole lies in our schools. It is white elephant no one wants to touch. But only when that hole is blocked will terms like a nation with a scientific temper mean anything. meaning of science. Etymologically, the word science has been derived from the Latin word scientia, which means knowledge or knowing. Characteristics of science. Science has certain characteristics which distinguish it from other spheres of human endeavor. These characteristics define the nature of science. Science is a particular way of looking at nature. Science is a rapidly expanding body of knowledge. Science is an interdisciplinary area of learning. Science is a truly international enterprise. Science is always tentative. Science promotes skepticism. Scientists are highly skeptic people. Science demands preservance from its practitioners. Science as an approach to investigation and as a process of constructing knowledge.